Hi everyone, my name is Angie. I'm the lead keeper here at Children's Zoo. We are going to do a Zoo to You today with our Red Panda Bon Lee. And today's Zoo to You is brought to you by MIFA on behalf of the YouFund College Investing Plan. We're going to see if we can get her to come down for some snacks and hang out with us for a few minutes. Bee, you want to come down? Good morning. Come here. Bee. Target, please. Come on, Miss Bee. So she's thinking about it. These guys spend a lot of their time in the treetops, so she is very comfortable being up high. They're also less inclined to move about as much in the heat, and it is a very warm day. She's just deciding if she wants to come over and see us or not. Bon Lee, target please. There we go. So they are very good climbers. They have very sharp claws, and their claws are non-retractable, which means they are out all the time, unlike a cat who can put them away when they're not in use. These guys use their claws to help them climb and grip those trees, as well as for self-defense. Bon Lee. Come on. I know, it's a very warm day today. All right, I'm going to let her think about it for a moment there. So these guys are naturally found in the Himalayan mountains, which is a very cold habitat. They are well designed for living in that type of climate. They have very thick fur. As such, we do need to monitor them closely in the heat. So they will get hot very quickly in our hotter days, and we monitor them and offer them cooling items throughout the day. So we have some misters set up both in this tree and on our climbing platform for her when it gets warm out, but we also have devices that tell us the temperature and the humidity and the temperature-humidity index that we monitor throughout the day, and anytime it gets above a certain point, we automatically offer them things to cool down, which could be the misters, it could be an ice treat, so some of their favorite snacks we put in water and freeze. It could be granite slabs that we put in the freezer. They stay cold for a long time. They can then lay on them. And we actually have a cooling bed built into this climb structure over here, so it stays cold and they can lay on it if they choose to. So all of these things we will offer to them throughout the day to kind of keep them cooler. But on the flip side, they do very well in the winter. So many of our animals have restrictions for the cold weather where they can't go out in certain temperatures. But these guys can go out in pretty much all winter weather unless we have a severe storm or it is exceedingly icy. But they do very well in that climate. Bee, you want to come down? Can you target? There we go. You can see how well she can climb right here. She does balance very well on those branches. Come see everybody. Target. Good girl. Good job. Move along the way. And they also have, because of their cold environment, they have a lot of fur on their feet. I don't know if you can see that as she comes down. Come on. Good girl. Good. Come on. Can you come all the way and see everyone? I know, we're going to look. So Bon Lee here is one species of 2 red pandas that we actually have here. There are 2 separate species of them. They were considered for many years to be 2 subspecies, but more recent research has actually indicated they're 2 entirely different species. They do share different habitats in the wild. They're both in the Himalayan mountains, but they would not actually cross over each other. So, Bee, come on. snacks for you if you want to come down. So Bonli is scientific name Aluris fulgens styani, and they are found in India and Nepal. We actually have another red panda here, Gimli, who is a scientific name Aluris fulgens fulgens. They are found in China. Sorry, Bonli is found in China area, the styani, and the fulgens is actually found in the India-Nepal ranges. So they don't naturally cross habitats in the wild. Now, she is going to go back and hang out in her tree probably for the rest of the time here. She didn't want to come down and hang out, but that's okay. We do a lot of training and interactions with them, and we want to keep it all voluntary and positive for her. So she only participates if she chooses to. We do a lot of positive reinforcement-based training, or clicker training, if you guys have heard of that. So that's a type of operant conditioning. Basically, I ask for a behavior, and when she performs it, I give her a what we call a bridge. It could be a click, it could be a whistle, it could be a verbal command that tells her she did the behavior and she's going to get a reward. We do a lot of that based on their medical care. So if you saw me using this pole, she knows to touch her nose to the pole, and that is the behavior I asked for. She's going to get a reward. It allows me to move her to different locations. But again, it's a hot day. She doesn't really want to come down. I'm not going to make her come down. And she may decide to later, but she may just want to hang out in her treetops, which again is where they feel most comfortable. By doing the different trainings we do, we are allowed to do more medical procedures with them in a much calmer environment, so it doesn't cause them undue stress. So she gets vaccinations just like a dog and cat would, and we are able to do those vaccinations just by having her come down, get her snacks, and it's done before she even knows it happens. So we practice kind of touching her in her hip and poking her with a needle with a cap on it so she gets used to the sensation of the poke. So it's very easy and stress-free. And a lot of the behaviors we do with our animals are all geared towards better husbandry and keeping things calm for them. Now, red pandas are actually not related to giant pandas at all. They do share the name panda, but the only thing they share in common is the fact that they both eat bamboo. One thing about these guys, which is pretty cool, is the only thing that's in the Aluridae family is red pandas. So there's the two species of red pandas, and that's it. Unlike, like the Canidae family, you have dogs, wolves, hyenas, or not dogs, wolves, foxes, things like that. These guys, it's only red pandas in that family. So it's a pretty cool fact about them. They don't have any super close relatives. Their next closest are actually weasels and skunks. So it's very different than what you would think when you look at them. But they do eat bamboo as part of their everyday diet. A giant panda would actually eat the entire stalk of bamboo. These guys only eat the leaves off the stalks. Here at the zoo, we offer them pretty much as they want to eat. They eat significantly less in the summer than they do in the winter, but they always get however much they're eating for the day. We're lucky that we can actually cut it here on grounds and then feed it out fresh. They also get something we call a leaf eater biscuit, which is specifically formulated for animals that eat leaves in captivity, as well as some produce every day. Now, they are considered omnivores, so in the wild they may actually do some hunting of small mammals, birds, reptiles, as well as eating fruits and grasses and roots, but they're not predominantly hunters. Here at the zoo, we do sometimes offer them meat products as enrichment, but it's not typically what they choose to eat. So even though they do get offered it occasionally, and in the wild they would eat some meat, here at the zoo they mostly eat kind of like a vegetarian lifestyle. You can see she's licking some water off of that bamboo, or that oss tree up there. So we do have bamboo up there for her, but it's very similar looking to this tree, which is actually not something they typically eat. But we have misters up in this tree that run every day, so she's licking some of the water off of that. They do have 2 locations for water on exhibit as well, but that way she doesn't have to come all the way down for it. So it's a nice little shortcut. Now, in the wild, these guys are considered endangered. That is due a lot to habitat fragmentation in addition to habitat loss. So fragmentation is just when the habitat is broken up by different human settlements and things that actually make it a lot harder for red pandas to meet with other red pandas and continue the species. So that's kind of a different problem than habitat loss, but both of it affects these guys greatly. As well as there's a bit of a pet trade for them in Asia, thankfully not here in America, but they don't make very good pets. They love to scent mark over everything, so in the wild that would be just their way of letting another red panda know that that is their space. They do it frequently here at the zoo as well, but it's just they will go along, kind of let a drop of urine out and kind of rub it in, and I would not want that all over my house. These guys are also very much wild animals. Even though they're here in the zoo, they do not act like a domesticated animal or dog or cat would. They will let us know very quickly if they are uncomfortable with our presence or in their space, and they would use those claws and teeth to defend themselves. They have a good relationship with their keepers. They're very used to coming down and doing that interactive training, but they still would not enjoy being pet or touched in that manner. So even though they look very cute and cuddly, they make poor pets. There's also, unfortunately, some poaching going on in the wild for that beautiful coat, which is quite lovely, but it unfortunately leads to some decline of this species as well. So we want to do our best to preserve them as much as we can. Here at the zoo, all of our animals that are endangered, or most of them, are part of a species survival plan. So we work with the Association of Zoos and Aquariums to try to preserve these species, and they work to keep the best genetically diverse captive population as possible. So any breeding that's done in these animals is all regulated by that to make sure that we have a very strong, genetically diverse captive population. Now these guys we do not do any breeding with at this time. Our two pandas are two different species, so they don't ever go in together, and we would not want to breed them. We have bred in the past, and we may in the future, but Bon Lee here is not recommended for a breeding program just based on those genetics. So she's pretty happy being here at the zoo and hanging out with us. She's all the way up there now. She might come down to this little bridge in a moment. But these guys are solitary in the wild. The only time you see panda or red pandas together are a mom with young cubs or male and female during breeding season. They don't typically stay with other red pandas, so they are not suffering being all on their own. That is exactly how they would be in the wild, and they're pretty content being that way. They can be introduced to other red pandas in a captive setting and have done well as a group, so you may see groups of them in zoos, and it makes them a little bit more versatile to have in a captive situation. That they tend to do well either way, but they're not going to suffer in a social aspect from being on their own. As I said, that is how they would be naturally. So these guys, she's grooming herself now. They do groom themselves similar to a cat would, but not as frequently as cats do for sure. And they do shed out some of that coat, so it stays fluffy throughout the year. It has a very thick coat, which is why we have to monitor them so closely in the heat. But they do shed it out and get a thinner coat in the summer, and then a kind of fluffier coat in the winter. She's way up there. Bee, what do you think? Do you want to come down? I'm going to give her one more shot, but I think she's pretty content. Miss Bee. She seems pretty happy grooming herself. Hi! You want to come down? Bon Lee. Bon Lee. So we do give these guys different enrichment. All of our animals here at the zoo get enrichment every day. And the enrichment could be anything to stimulate natural behaviors and help break up their day a little bit. So training is a form of enrichment. It could be toys, it could be food, it could be presenting their food in a different manner than typical. These guys do, as I said, love to scent mark, and we actually rotate which panda is out on exhibit every day, and that gives them a really good form of enrichment because they love to scent mark over the other red panda's scent. So they do not love to play with toys like some of our other animals do, but they do love to scent mark. So it kind of gives them a change of environment and gives them something to do when they first come out. Now, while Bon Lee is out on exhibit, Gimli will actually have access to both his behind-the-scenes holding space and hers. So we have several different rooms that we can put them in, and that actually gives him a chance to explore a new area and a bit more space while she is out. And then tonight she will get the choice of being inside her holding space or out here, so she can pick where she wants to be. And Gimli will stay in his room, and tomorrow they actually switch. So Gimli will come out on exhibit, and then she will be inside for the day. So she's panting a little bit because it's quite hot and humid today. So we will monitor her pretty closely. There are some days these guys actually will not be out on exhibit, or will have access inside so they can pick where they want to be if it is very hot. We do have air conditioning in their holding space for them, so there may be times where it's just too hot for them to be comfortable out here, and we give them the choice to cool down in there if they want to. So she could possibly go in later today if it gets very hot, or sometimes we switch pandas out so they don't have to be out all day if they don't want to be. But as I said, we monitor both the temperatures and her behavior very closely in case we need to offer her something to cool down. You can see how well she uses those big claws as she kind of moves along the branches. What do you think, Bee? She's going to go back up there and hang out. She's not sure she wants to make the effort to come all the way down, and I don't blame her. It's a toasty hot day out today. It's very muggy. So she's going to go sit up there for a while. They tend to have up and down activity levels, so they'll be more active kind of at dawn and dusk, typically in the wild. And here at the zoo, we kind of see lulls and periods of activity. So a lot of times they're more active when they first come out, and then they'll kind of go take a nap after they've gotten some of their breakfast. And they'll may have a nap period of activity a little bit later, and then they'll take a nap again. And it'll kind of go up and down throughout the day. Now, on a hot day, they're going to be less active than they would be on a cooler day because they don't want to expend that energy and make themselves hotter. And these guys actually share this exhibit space with our muntjac deer, who is out as well. So I think he went over in the shade over that way. So in the wild, they would share a habitat together. So it's not uncommon to kind of have them interact, but they typically, the red pandas are going to be spending more time high up and in the treetops, whereas the muntjac deer stays on the ground. So they do interact with each other here at the zoo occasionally, and they'll sometimes touch noses, but most of the time the red pandas like being up high. And as I said, they do have periods of activity where they'll come run around on the ground, and sometimes they even graze in the grass, but the majority of the time they like to hang out, so we give them lots of different places to do so. Bon Lee likes to hang out up here most, but sometimes she'll actually be on this bridge over here, or even on the blocks that are towards the top of that climb structure. So if there's ever days she can't be found, usually she's right there. Gimli tends to spend more time in the trees or right on the top of this little bridge. What do you think, Bee? Hi. Do you want to come over again? Funny? We're very busy making our fur look pretty. That's okay. All right, I'll leave some snacks for you to find. So we do have different enrichment options for them. What I was offering her is grapes, which is one of her favorite snacks. This isn't something that she gets as part of her everyday diet because it does contain a lot of sugar, but it is one of her favorite treats along with raisins. Gimli's a little bit more varied. He likes sweet potatoes and apples and pears. Bon Lee will eat those. She gets apples every day and sometimes pears, but they're not her favorite. She doesn't always want to come down for those things. So just like they tend to like sweet things. So she really enjoys the grapes as one of her favorite snacks. But with that, we also make sure that they get limited quantities, so we don't want to overfeed them some of the sugary food. So she'll get a certain amount that she's allowed to have per day. I know, it's warm. We'll bring you some ice treats soon. So she's pretty content up there. I'm not going to push her to make her come down, but we'll leave some snacks out for her, and she might choose to in a little bit. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming to watch today. I hope you enjoyed getting to see Bon Lee and learn a little bit about this great species.